All right, we start in the Western Cape. Several roads will be closed in Cape Town tomorrow due to a planned march by the EFF. The EFF has called for a shutdown in the province about a number of issues, including what it calls unjust taxi impoundments. But what is the stance of a major taxi organisation? Well, SANTACO is not supporting the shutdown officially. We spoke to the chairperson of the National Taxi Council in the Western Cape, Mandla Hermanus.
As SANTACO, we support the march to the pound from Vengate Mall to Ndabeni, where the pound is. But what we are not going to do is to withhold our services. So for all our operators, there will be no stay away tomorrow. But we encourage operators to go and be part of the march because it's for the cause that we have been fighting for all along. So we support the march, but we will not be embarking on a stay away or a shutdown.
But if you're encouraging your members and saying you support it and actively saying that they can go out there, isn't that an informal taxi strike in a sense?
Absolutely not. The strike, the march was applied for by political parties, a group of political parties, but at the core of one of the things that they want to agitate for is the impoundments, which directly affects us. But we are not embarking on a stay away. So there will be normal operations, taxi operations tomorrow.
Well, the Western Cape says it's ready for protest action planned by the EFF for tomorrow. Other concerns raised by the party include unemployment, racism, service delivery and crime. To discuss, we're joined by the Western Cape Provincial Minister of Community Safety and Police Oversight, Reagen. MEC, thank you. So we heard from SANTACO that they encourage members to go on the march, but they are not supporting a complete shutdown or withdrawing services tomorrow. What are you expecting, firstly, in terms of people trying to get to work and movement around the province?
Francis, thank you so much for bringing us into this conversation. I think first and foremost, I must clarify that a shutdown is unlawful. It will infringe on the rights of others. And we are delighted to hear that SANTACO is not supporting a shutdown. Here in the Western Cape, we have already had engagements with top management in the South African Police Service to ensure that we have sufficient visible policing, but also public order policing, coupled by the fact that there's law enforcement and Metro Police to help and assist. So we are wanting to ensure that there's lawlessness, that there's law will be upheld, and that there won't be any violence. Whenever a political party, Francis, advocate for a shutdown, it speaks to a violent nature. It speaks often when others and people's rights are trampled upon and people are intimidated. And we wouldn't want to see that here in the Western Cape.
Apparently the EFF has applied for a permit, right? You need a permit from the city to march. There are some conditions there saying that the march must be peaceful and limited to 1,000 people. So would that be the only legal part of the protest action then? And it's capped at 1,000 people. It doesn't sound that much. So anything beyond then would be illegal?
Yes. Anything beyond 1,000 will be illegal. In the city of Cape Town, in terms of local government rules, there's what we refer to as a Section 4 committee. The Section 4 committee has granted permission for the EFF's march from Vengate up until Ndabeni, where the pound is. And that is a dedicated route where the EFF is then allowed to march. That particular march will commence at 9 o'clock. Hence, we will see that there will be free-flowing traffic in the morning so that our commuters can ultimately get to work, so that people can ultimately do what they're needing to do and not be prohibited in any particular way.
Isn't 1,000 people possibly excessively prohibitive for a party like the EFF that can bring people out en masse?
Francis, we have seen here in the Western Cape, previously in March, we have seen no EFF members ultimately being able to rally support in their particular areas to bring a shutdown. And we could maintain peace and we could maintain the lawyer. So we ultimately see that this is a call to generate fear. It is to generate anxiety amongst members, and I have a slight suspicion there won't even be 1,000 tomorrow, Francis.
All right. Well, we will follow, and viewers will see. What is your response, MEC, to what the EFF is saying, mainly about the city of Cape Town, but of course criticism for the province as well? It says the days of the DA-led city of Cape Town draconian rule and racism are over. For too long, the poorest of the poor and working class have been treated with disdain by the DA-led government.
Francis, the DA-led government here in the Western Cape has consistently shown every metric, whether it is the AG report, whether it is independent analysis, that where the DA governs, we govern better. But we would be the first people to say that we still know that we have a long way to go, but we are making strides way ahead of other municipalities, of other provinces. And when when political parties want to use opportunistic means in order to garner support, the voters here in the Western Cape are fully aware that they have seen the EFF's violent nature, not only in the streets, but in the very parliament where they serve. So we have no doubt that this is politically motivated, because we see where the DA governs, we govern better, but we know we have a long way to go, and we are making strides in that regard.
My final question, a task team was set up. There was a very violent taxi strike earlier in the year. That task team meant to bring the parties together, including the province and Santaco and the city. Do you think that that move towards some sort of agreement and peace could be scuppered by what happens tomorrow or not?
To a large extent, I would want to say the following. This march was planned to coincide with the end of the task team needing to get in the room. What that essentially means is that the EFF was hoping that the Western Cape government and Santaco will not have a continued arrangements in moving forward. But as Santaco has indicated, they are not going to be part of this particular shutdown, and that is welcoming, considering that the task team has tremendous work ahead of itself, but also wanting to make sure that the taxi industry is able to abide by the rules, abide by the law, so that commuters can ultimately use that particular service and get to work, and businesses can grow. We know that the taxi industry transports so many of our commuters to and from work, and that is what we ultimately want to see. But this was purely opportunistic. And Francis, it will be remiss of me not to mention the following. Whenever there is protest action, and in the last quarter we had 41 protest action that was deemed to be unrest. And Francis, that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost in terms of diversion, when SAPS officers or law enforcement officers also are needing to be diverted in order to address unrest. So when political parties are opportunistic and they are wanting to march and shut down, it's ultimately cost money. At times it turns violent, and we would never want to see that, because it's the taxpayer that will ultimately bear the brunt of that particular cost.
All right, thank you. Reagen Allen, Western Cape Community Safety and Police Oversight Minister. Let's take a short break. Lots more to come on The Full View, and we'll talk about engineers. How do we keep the skills in the country? Desperately needed skills.